Next up, podcast listeners, we have the dumbest bill in America. And do we have a lead up, Mr. Producer? Here it is. And it's the dumbest bill in America, and it is misgendering the elderly. You heard that correctly. We've actually done a dumbest bill on this before, but there is new news of misgendering the elderly. First, we must explain what that means. Misgendering the elderly means that you intentionally call a transvestite 75-year-old a man, or you say sir, but you say sir intentionally when you should have said ma'am, as if you're supposed to know. And that would be an intentional misgendering. Believe it or not, in California, that's a law. That's a law. So in Bloomberg law, California's top court will review transgender elder care law. So the law passed, and now it has gone to California's top court. So California's Supreme Court will consider whether a law that prohibits long-term elder care workers from misgendering transgender residents is an illegal restriction on free speech, the justices announced Wednesday. Well, of course it is. In July, an appellate court in Sacramento revived a petition to block a provision of the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Long-Term Care Facility Residents Bill of Rights, that prohibits care workers from referring to residents by names or pronouns other than those chosen by the resident. That particular provision is a content-based restriction on free speech and isn't sufficiently narrowly tailored to justify the burden on long-term care providers, Justice Elena J. Duarte wrote for the California Court of Appeals, 3rd District. It restricts more speech than is necessary to achieve the state's interest in eliminating discrimination and mistreatment of LBGT seniors, Duarte said. The law criminalizes even occasional, isolated instances of willful misgendering. Jeez, I have to read this again. The law criminalizes even occasional, isolated instances of willful misgendering, without requiring that those instances amount to harassment or discriminatory conduct, Duarte wrote. The appellate court rejected California's argument that the rule is content neutral because employees can choose to refrain from using any pronouns at all to avoid misgendering. Well, I guess you would do that by calling the person by their name. So, yeah, you could say, so Rachel, for like Dr. Levine. You say Rachel instead of sir. So, but if you said sir, and even if like subconsciously you knew that you were calling Dr. Rachel Levine, who's a dude, sir, you were doing it intentionally, that would be, believe it or not, that would be a criminal act in the state of California, which is why this stupid law has gone to court and now is in the Supreme Court. The appellate court rejected California's argument that the rule is content neutral because employees can choose to refrain from using any pronouns, as I said. But a separate provision requiring gender-based room assignments to be made in accordance with a resident's gender identity doesn't violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment or the California Constitution, the court said. Transgender residents are similarly situated to non-transgender residents for room assignment purposes, and the provision doesn't provide special rights to transgender residents. California Supreme Court Justices Tani J. Canto-Sokoy, Carol A. Corrigan, Goodwin H. Liu, Leandra R. Kruger, Joshua P. Groban, and Martin J. Jenkins voted Wednesday to review the case but declined to depublish the lower court's opinion. Pending review, the 3rd District's ruling may be cited not only for its persuasive value, but also for the limited purpose of establishing the existence of a conflict of authority, yada, yada, yada. So, basically, in California, the law is passed by this, I think, Senator Scott Wiener, appropriately named, So Senator Scott Wiener put a bill in, and the bill's purpose was to say, if you work in a long-term care nursing home and any of the long-term care residents are transvestites, or they're not transvestites, they instead just want to be referred to by a different gender or different pronouns, and you call them by what they appear to be, which is a guy as sir or mister, and you do that intentionally. How would they know that? But you do that intentionally, that would be considered abuse and therefore would be a criminal act. A criminal act. I mean, it's just unbelievable that you have a state that elects individuals like Scott Wiener as a state senator to pass bills that say you should go to jail by misgendering the elderly, when at the same time you have people pooping and peeing in public and shooting up drugs in public in San Francisco and massive homelessness. And yet this is what they're focused on. And it demonstrates to you the complete and utter decay of society when this is their priority. When this is their priority. Pronouns, ladies and gentlemen, pronouns. Making pronouns a criminal act because you used the wrong pronoun. And as I've said before, when we talked about this particular dumbest bill in America, you know the next step will be not just misgendering the elderly, but they're going to expand that to anyone who uses a misgender pronoun, anyone, not just for the elderly, would then potentially be engaging in a criminal act if they did it intentionally. Can you imagine? You go to court and you're like, well, how would you know it's intentional? Well, I know because he was smiling when he said it. Well, so what? So what? I mean, this is ridiculous. This is so obviously against the First Amendment. It's really stupid, folks. And we ought to just let this stuff, we have to just get rid of these people. We have to unelect people like Scott Wiener once and for all and have them focus and elect really serious politicians. So once again, misgendering the elderly, and that is the dumbest bill in America.